When I tell you that this man is a car thief, you think he steals entire cars. But this man will specialize in stealing a specific part of cars, a part that you would never expect or imagine, the last part that could come to your mind, and then he will form a gang specialized in stealing these parts, and will activate a huge integrated gang that will bring God a fortune of up to $60 million, and through this fortune he will pave his way to the top of the pyramid in the world of mafia gangs and organized crime in New York. This story is the story of a man who made himself from scratch, right in the wrong field, but he started from scratch. We will see how he used his intelligence and strong observation to impose himself in a difficult world like the world of the mafia, and at the same time create a huge fortune. Our story takes place in the 90s. At that time, New York City was facing a huge problem with car thieves. In a previous video we saw the Chinese intelligence officer who became the biggest car thief in America, specifically in New York. But this man was not the only one working in the field. The story we are seeing today happened 5 years before the Chinese man's story. Back in the 90s, there were gangs and criminal organizations whose entire business was focused on cars. Imagine that in New York alone more than 1,000 cars were stolen in 1 year. These thefts were varied, meaning that sometimes they would steal the entire car, and sometimes they would break the car and steal a specific part of it. They would try to focus on the expensive parts, but the thieves did not focus on the most expensive parts of the car. They did not know its value. So you say, how can thieves who specialize in cars not know the value of the parts? The answer is that this part did not have a material value only. It had a secret value that no one discovered at that time. The value of this part was discovered by a man named Mauricio Borcan. This man would establish the largest empire for selling stolen car parts. Mauricio was of Italian origin. His family immigrated to America in search of a better life. Of course, we all know that Italian immigrants in America are linked to the largest mafia gangs and organized crime. In Mauritania, these societies had classes like normal societies. You find small gangsters who do what we might call dirty work, such as theft, looting, kidnapping, and even murder. There are also people who are a little higher in rank, who are like small leaders who you sometimes find playing the role of merchants. Of course, there is the upper class, who are the big leaders at the top. In an organized crime society there are classes. The higher you go, the richer you become, and the more powerful you become. Those at the bottom always aspire to grow and reach the top. Our friend Mauricio came from the bottom. He was poor, and had no connections or anyone to help him. He had to build himself from scratch. So he started working in dirty work. He was stealing and looting, and he would sell what he stole to merchants or people who were higher than him. During this period he kept his eyes open and was looking at what was most in demand in the market, what had the highest price, and what was easiest to steal. During that period, he even mingled with the sons of leaders and merchants to chat with them and learn from them how this trade works. In the end, Mauricio decided to focus on the field of auto parts because he saw that it was a profitable field, and he felt that his abilities were suitable for this field. When he felt that he had gained the required experience and came to know how the business works, he decided to try to climb to the merchant class, so he started buying auto parts from thieves. He came to know what parts were most in demand and what had the highest profit margin. Even in the beginning, he used to sell parts from the trunk of his car. He used to make the car like a mobile shop. Imagine, for example, the part that he used to buy for $10, he used to sell for $100. He understood that the profit was not for him. He was crazy. So quickly his business developed and his money increased. As soon as he had enough money he went and opened a shop in 1994 because the shop would give him a legal facade and make his business easier. I mean, before he used to buy and sell in the streets, and this always exposed him to danger. Those who work in mafias and organized crime know that the first step you must take if you want to become a successful trader in the world of gangs is to open a shop or a legitimate and legal facade through which you can work more comfortably. In Mauritania, cars. In order to make the look of this shop more real, he used to buy real spare parts from companies, meaning parts that were not stolen. This means that even if the police or authorities came and searched the shop for any reason, they would find real parts, invoices, and dealings with companies, so no one would suspect him. After he created a legal facade for himself and covered himself completely from the front, now he has to pay attention to the backside. In the world of mafias, there's always someone higher than you. If you want to work comfortably in a certain area, and in a certain field, such as the field of cars, you have to pay. Mauricio knew this, so he always arranged his affairs with those who were on top of that. He was paying the mafia periodically. This money wasn't just to keep him safe. This money was like protection money, meaning he was under their protection or under the protection of the leader who controls this area. This is how things work in this world. That's why they call it organized crime. Mauricio's business continued to flourish and grow, and he had stronger relationships with small thieves. He always kept his eyes open for expensive items. The airbag that comes out when an accident happens, this is the item that would make Mauricio become one of the richest mafia dealers, and his fortune would reach more than $60 million. I think you are still surprised and don't understand how a piece like an airbag could get all this money. Let me tell you how Mauricio noticed that the airbag is one of the easiest pieces that a thief can steal from a car. A thief can steal an airbag in less than a minute. Of course, the airbag is small and easy to hide in a bag, so it's easy for him to steal huge amounts of airbags in a short time. For example, if you have a parking space with 30 cars, you can steal all the airbags in these cars in less than half an hour, unlike if you want to steal a whole car, or want to steal large parts. This also adds an important part to the process. Tracking airbags is much more difficult than tracking whole cars and large parts. Imagine that at that time, even the airbags did not have serial numbers, so after they were stolen, tracking them was impossible. Of course, hiding and storing them was easy because they were small parts. And of course, the most important thing is that they are expensive. The price of one airbag used to reach $1,000 to $2,000, and sometimes more. At that time, the value of money was double today. All of these reasons made the airbag the ideal part for someone like Mauricio to make a fortune from. There is an additional advantage, but we will mention it later, an advantage that even Mauricio himself did not take into account, and that would make his business skyrocket just because he did not. Let's anticipate the events. The first thing Mauricio did was to start studying and learning about airbags. He learned about the types, how to disassemble them, and how to assemble them. After that, he founded his own thief group. He chose the members of this group himself, of course, through his work with thieves during the past period. He got to know them and knew who was the best among them. He took the distinguished ones and hired them. He started teaching them how to disassemble the airbags quickly and professionally. So the thieves started working and started collecting these airbags and bringing them to the shop. From the beginning, Mauricio knew that this airbag business would hit the sky. The quantities that his followers and gang were bringing were huge, and the demand was great. Mauricio's customers were mostly mechanics and owners of car repair shops, so the airbags started coming from here and going from here. Maurice was not negligent. Unfortunately, he was paying them generously because he knew that their loyalty to him was according to the money they made. He would give it to him, but despite this, his profit margin was crazy. He would pay about $200 for one airbag and sell it for $1,000 to $2,000 or more. Even the New York police began to notice that they were receiving many reports of stolen airbags. They were surprised by this new trend. They would receive a theft report and go see the car. They would find it in the best condition, but the airbag was missing. They did not understand exactly what was happening, but after a short period of investigation, they began to understand the secret. These airbags did not have serial numbers, so tracking them was impossible. And because they were small, and their theft was quick and easy, it was difficult to catch these thieves while they were stealing. When they learned that the prices of these airbags reached $1,000 to $2,000 and more, the picture became clear to them, and they knew that there was an organization behind these operations. Even after they were finally able to catch some of the thieves who were stealing the airbags, they realized that there was a group behind these operations. The thieves refused to confess to anything when the investigators asked one of them who was behind you and who was paying you. His answer was, "By God, I work alone." This meant that he was putting all the blame on himself because they knew that stealing airbags was considered petty theft. So the thieves would just spend a few hours in prison and get out after paying a fine and compensation, and that was it. This meant that there was no punishment that could deter them or force them to confess to who was moving them. The airbag thefts continued all over New York. Every day of the year, thousands of airbags were stolen. The problem became widespread and the police were confused, not knowing how to reach the source or the mastermind. On the other hand, our friend Mauricio was living the dream from its widest doors. Imagine that with the amount of airbags he was stealing, a thief no longer knew where to store them. So he decided to open a large workshop and called it All-in-One. This workshop means all-in-one. It was a huge warehouse. Part of this warehouse was a store where spare parts and airbags were stored, and the rest was a workshop. Instead of Mauricio selling airbags to mechanics and workshop owners, he became the one who would exchange them for people or sell them directly to people and earn more. Imagine that he even started offering a shipping service to all of America. If you live on the other side and need an airbag, your order will be delivered to you. No, he also started making ads and promotions for his company, and calling himself the Airbag King, the King of Airbags. He published ads in magazines and newspapers and even on the internet, although the internet was just emerging. Of course, all of this made the business flourish and money started accumulating for Mauricio in the millions. From the amount of cash he had, he no longer knew where to put it. Here, he started to fear something else. He started to fear financial auditing. If the authorities decided to audit his sources of income and the huge amount of money that he brought in, he might have problems. So, Mauricio decided to get a clever accountant who could control him in terms of records, finance and make everything appear legal because you see, this is an important aspect of organized crime. Mauricio had a friend named Eileen, whom he had known since high school. Eileen was an accountant and had experience in Mauritania, cars, and he wanted her to be his accountant. When Mauricio showed her the financial records they had, she immediately knew that something was wrong and that this place was not a clean business. After Mauricio felt that she understood what had happened, he told her that all she had to do was fix these records and make all financial transactions appear legal and legitimate. She was hesitant at first, but Mauricio enriched her with a good salary. In the end, she agreed. One of the things he advised her to do was to start dealing with checks because checks give the business and the company greater legitimacy. So Mauricio contracted with a check payment company and started paying all his employees and even the thieves who worked for him with checks. So after receiving the checks, they would go and receive their money from the check payment company. Instead of going through Mauricio's company, Valka began going through this check company, so the situation became more legitimate, and then Mauricio decided to distance himself from the dirty side of the business. Before, he himself was managing the thieves who worked with him, so he decided to promote 3 of these thieves and make them close assistants. These 3 would manage the rest of the thieves and manage the entire theft aspect, but he would be on top, so he isolated himself more from the dirty work. The business was organized and running at its best, not only financially, but also in terms of efficiency and management. Imagine, they could receive an order for a certain airbag and they did not have that type available in the warehouse, so the thieves team would steal that type of airbag on the same day, meaning service in less than 24 hours better than the agencies. Man, Mauricio works with a system of customer satisfaction as a goal, and he literally monopolized the airbag market. Imagine, your car's airbag could be stolen from a forbidden thing at night, and in the morning you go and change it in his workshop, and this additional feature that Mauricio himself did not take into account, he was creating the problem and solving it. Supply and demand became his game. He is the one who steals, and he is the one who sells, as if he got a glitch of endless money. If you even imagine the size of the overwhelming success that his company achieved, Mauricio won an award called the Trader of the Year Award. Anyone who saw him from the outside without knowing about his secrets and mysteries would say that this is a hard-working man who worked on himself and became a big trader. The wealth that Mauricio was able to accumulate made him one of the richest people in the world of organized crime in New York. So, he bought luxurious houses and expensive cars, and began to live a life of luxury. But, this wealth was not enough for him. He was also looking for something else. He wanted respect and status. And usually in the world of mafias, you do not get this status unless you are part of the families of leaders, because mafias are always linked to families. And as we said, Mauricio came from an ordinary poor girl who had no connection to the mafia leaders. So, in order for Mauricio to reach this position, he needed to become part of the family of a leader of the leaders. And from here, he met Carol Montana, who was the daughter of one of the leaders. Mauricio kept getting close to her and expressed his admiration for her, and most likely, her position was the most important thing to him, even if she was beautiful and had other good qualities. I think he just saw her as the daughter of the leader, and this alone made her the ideal woman. After that, Mauricio got close to her father, and her father was originally a fan of him and admired that he made his own way and was able to reach this level with his own effort. So, the leader immediately agreed to their relationship, and Mauricio and Carol became engaged. This means that here you feel that Mauricio has achieved all his goals: wealth, wife, and position. But in the world of gangs and the life of crime, you have to know that even if the world is rosy, anything can turn black in a moment. The police were able to catch one of the thieves. Those who work for Mauricio, you say, what's the problem in the end between a few hours in prison and getting out with a fine as usual? Unfortunately, not true for Mauritius. While he was stealing an airbag from this thief's car, he was caught assaulting and beating someone to steal from him, and this is considered a serious crime that could lead him to disaster. So, this thief was ready to do anything to get out of this mess, and he knew that the police definitely wanted the information he had about the airbag empire that Mauricio had built. So, he made a deal with them that he would tell them the information he had in exchange for them identifying him from the charge against him. So, the police agreed, and the thief gave them everything. Told them about Mauricio and his company, which is Awalan, and told them how this whole operation works. Immediately after that, there was a surveillance team from the police in front of Mauricio's workshop, and immediately they noticed that there were people carrying large bags in their hands, entering the workshop, and leaving without these bags. And immediately, they knew that these bags contained the stolen airbags, so they started preparing themselves to set up an ambush, but Mauricio was one step ahead of them because he was very careful. He had installed surveillance cameras around the workshop building from all sides. He was able to immediately notice the van in which the police were hiding. The first thing he did was call his assistants and order them to stop delivering the stolen parts to the workshop. After that, the investigators tried to catch up with Mauricio in the car, but Mauricio was alert and knew that they were following him. To make sure, he did a move where he turned right 3 times. Turning right 3 times is an ideal move so that you know if the car behind you is following you, because when you turn right 3 times, it will be as if you are turning. If the car behind you turns right 3 times, it means that it is following you. Even the police who were chasing him, when they saw him do this move, knew that they were following him. From this, Mauricio became very careful and had his assistants store the stolen airbags in another place. They stopped bringing them to this workshop. The police investigations continued for months without being able to find anything to prove the accusation against Mauricio. Once, they even tried to make a move. They sent an undercover policeman with an airbag to try to sell it to Mauricio, but Mauricio immediately returned it and refused to buy from him. Mauricio never bought from any random person. He had a thief, and he never took it from any thief from outside. Despite that, the police kept trying to repeat the same move, but it didn't work with them. They wanted to infiltrate his small circle. They wanted one of them to be a thief hidden among them. But Mauricio was always careful, and didn't let anyone in with him. Imagine, these investigations continued for 1.5 years trying to catch him, but they couldn't. Then came the year 1997. That year, Honda Japan decided to put a serial number on the airbags in their cars. This was something. It is unprecedented and will greatly help the police in their investigations, because now if they are able to retrieve one of the Honda airbags, they will be able to track this airbag and know if it is a real spare part or a stolen airbag. So the investigators focused on Honda cars and any new Honda car whose airbag is stolen. They immediately take the serial number of the stolen airbag and create a special list in which they put all the airbag numbers of the Honda cars that were stolen. Then they called All-in-One, which is Mauricio's company, and quite simply asked for Honda airbags of the same new models that they had serial numbers for. When these airbags arrived, they were actually able to confirm that at least one of them was on the list they had, meaning it was stolen. This was the first strong evidence they obtained in the case after more than a year and a half of investigations, but they still needed more and stronger evidence. They wanted to arrest Mauricio and his gang, but they were sure that the evidence they had would destroy this entire organization, so they obtained a search warrant from the court to search the mail packages that Mauricio's company sent to all parts of America. This search warrant allows the police to open the mail packages and verify their contents, then close them, and let them ship normally as if they had not been opened, meaning a secret search. This search showed them the huge quantity of airbags that Mauricio's company was selling, and they were able to confirm that a number of these airbags were actually stolen. So the evidence they had became stronger, but they were not satisfied with this. So they decided to also search the company's financial records, and these records led them to the check company that Mauricio was using. This check company, as we said, was cashing all the checks that employees brought, and Mauricio's thieves were free, and the thieves were registered as employees of the company, and what Mauricio did not know was that the company the checks were photographing every transaction that took place. They were photographing the check, and the face of the person who received the money was in a camera in front of the teller. All the thieves, Mauricio and his employees, had their pictures with the check company. This means that Mauricio was using the check company to make his business more legitimate. In the end, this decision turned against him and his followers. These pictures and transactions confirmed that Mauricio was dealing directly with these thieves. So, the investigators knew that they had obtained all the evidence they needed. The time came for the arrest. Imagine that these investigations took 18 months to reach this point. A team of police and investigators went to Mauricio's house. They had an arrest warrant from the court. This warrant allowed them to storm the house and search it completely. As soon as they arrived, they broke the door and stormed the house immediately and started searching the rooms. But the bad surprise they got was that the house was empty. There was no one there. This made them afraid and worried that Mauricio knew about the arrest and was able to escape, and now he might be on his way to another country. But after they searched the house, they noticed that there was a table with gifts on it, and they quickly realized that these were his wedding gifts. Mauricio was just married, and there was even a list of wedding guests next to the gifts. This list included the names of mafia leaders and well-known people in the world of organized crime. Even the police knew about them. There were also some airbag thieves who worked for Mauricio and who the police were following. Of course, as we said, the police knew about the airbag thieves and their identities through the check company. This list also included Mauricio's father and mother, and their phone numbers were next to their names. In fact, they decided to try to contact his mother and get her to reveal his location. One of them called her and told her that Mauricio's house had been broken into by thieves and that they needed to contact him. The mother told them that her son, who is Mauricio, is currently spending his honeymoon with his wife on one of the islands. Hawaii, and gave them the phone number he uses there, so the lover called him and told him that his house was robbed. And during the call, they were able to track the number he uses, and they found out that he belongs to one of the resorts on the island of Maui, which is part of Hawaii. After they confirmed his location, they called the FBI office in Hawaii and asked them to arrest him. The FBI agents there moved quickly and identified the resort where Mauricio was staying, and they found out his room number and went to the room and stormed it and arrested him while he was in the middle of his honeymoon. From that moment on, the airbag empire collapsed. The number of airbags that Mauricio and his gang stole during the years they were working in it is estimated at about 40 to 50,000 airbags, and the wealth that Mauricio obtained on his own through this operation reached $60 million, and as I told you, the money at that time was double its value today. In the end, most of Mauricio's assets were confiscated. This money, God knows if he was hiding some of it in a secret place and was sentenced to 10 years in prison on charges of money laundering and planning thefts. Look, the sentence is frankly short compared to what we saw in other cases. I don't know the circumstances and details of this sentence. Certainly the fact that these operations were unarmed, not dangerous or violent, contributed to the sentence being shorter. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button. If you are free, these are other awesome clips that you can watch, and that's it. By God, we will see you in the next video. Bye.